The Galactic Academy for Elite Combat's main hall stretched toward the artificial sky, its prismatic walls designed to accommodate students from over 100 different worlds. Most wouldn't notice the human girl sitting in the back row of Combat Theory 401, and that's exactly how Winter Frost preferred it. Her academy uniform hung loose on her frame, making her look even smaller than her already diminutive human size. The academy floated in neutral space between the Perseus and Carina arms of the galaxy, its architecture a testament to the united warrior cultures of known space. Or, as Winter had learned in her 2 years here, a place where the galaxy's apex predators could peacefully pretend they weren't constantly plotting to devour each other. At the front of the classroom, Professor Tsarkax, a 12-foot-tall draconid whose scales bore the marks of 1,000 victories, drew complex battle formations in the air with his neural interface. The key to superiority in combat, his translator broadcasted, lies not in strength alone, but in the moment you break your opponent's spirit. Winter's fingers moved across her datapad, taking notes with mechanical precision. To anyone watching, she appeared to be another unremarkable human, accepted into the academy through some political quota system. No one noticed how her eyes tracked every movement in the room, how her enhanced neural implants recorded and analyzed every detail. The classroom's atmosphere shifted as Vexcor entered, fashionably late as always. The apex warrior of the Novan Empire stood 7 feet tall, his biosynthetic armor rippling with barely contained power. Even the professor paused in deference. In the 200 years since the Novans had emerged from their death world, they had conquered 17 systems and earned a reputation as the galaxy's perfect warriors. Speaking of breaking spirits, Vexcor's translator rumbled as he claimed his usual seat at the front. I heard humans can be permanently damaged by a single broken bone. Is that true, Professor? Scattered laughter echoed through the classroom. Winter kept typing, her expression unchanged. Their fragility is legendary, added Crix, a silicon-based life form whose crystalline body refracted light into dangerous patterns. I heard they can't even regenerate lost limbs. Professor Tsarkax's scales shifted to a shade of diplomatic neutrality. All species have their limitations. Today we focus on strategic theory. Winter continued her notes, but her enhanced memory was already cataloging every detail of the exchange. The way Vexcor's secondary respiratory vents flared when he laughed. How his bioarmor tensed slightly on his left side when he moved. The microscopic delay between his neural commands and his armor's response. Combat assessment pairs will be posted next week, the professor announced as class ended. Remember, your performance will determine your ranking in the upcoming galactic tournament. Students filed out, their various appendages and locomotion methods creating a chaotic dance of movement. Winter waited, as always, to leave last. But today, something different happened. Hey, Fragile One, Vexcor called out, his massive frame blocking the doorway. I've been watching you. Winter looked up, her face a mask of careful neutrality. Can I help you? 2 years, he continued, bioarmor pulsing with predatory patterns. 2 years you've sat in the back, taking notes, never speaking unless spoken to. Never volunteering for combat demonstrations. Never showing what you can do. I'm just here to learn, Winter replied, her voice steady. Vexcor's facial plates shifted into what passed for a smile among his kind. No. You're hiding something. The way you move, it's too controlled. Too precise. He leaned closer, his armor emitting a low hum. What are you hiding, little human? For the first time, Winter allowed herself a small smile. Would you believe me if I told you? Next week's combat assessments, Vexcor straightened to his full height, I'm requesting you as my partner. Time to see what's behind that quiet facade. As he left, Winter's neural implants registered the first spike in her heart rate all day. 2 years of careful observation. 2 years of analyzing every species' weaknesses while appearing to be nothing more than a quiet, studious human girl. 2 years of preparation for exactly this moment. She activated her secure link to Earth's Special Operations Command. Command, this is Operative Frost. The target took the bait. Phase 1 complete. The response came instantly, understood, Operative. Remember your mission parameters. This isn't just about winning a fight. Winter gathered her belongings, her movements as precise as ever. "Oh, I remember," she subvocalized. Time to show the galaxy why they should have paid more attention to the quiet human girl in the back of the class. As she walked through the academy's sprawling corridors, betting algorithms were already calculating the odds of the upcoming matches. Every prediction model, every combat analysis system, every experienced warrior would bet on Vexcore, the apex predator, against the quiet human girl. That was just fine with Winter. After all, humanity hadn't survived first contact and clawed its way into the galactic community by playing according to everyone else's expectations. Next week, she would teach them all why the quiet ones were often the most dangerous. The combat assessment postings drew crowds of students like debris to a black hole. Winter watched from her usual distance as various species jostled, hovered, and slithered around the holographic display. The anticipation was practically visible in the air, creating interference patterns in some of the energy-based students' auras. Combat Pair 001, Vex KOR vs Winter Frost. The display pulsed with this announcement, causing an immediate ripple of reactions through the assembled students. Some laughed, others expressed confusion, and a few, the more observant ones, showed signs of curiosity. The human. A quantum collective hive mind buzzed, its thousand tiny particles swirling in disbelief. Is this some kind of joke? Perhaps it's a mercy killing, suggested a Magmarian, their molten form bubbling with amusement. The Novans are known for their efficiency. Winter moved through the crowd like water through stones, her movements deliberately unremarkable. As she passed, students shifted away, not out of fear but from the ingrained habit of dismissing human presence as irrelevant. She had spent 2 years cultivating that response, and now it served as perfect camouflage. In the Academy's private training chamber Delta 7, Winter finally allowed herself to drop the facade. The room's quantum-locked doors ensured absolute privacy, and its systems were programmed to mask all internal sensor readings. Here, she could be herself. "Training Protocol Omega 9, she commanded. The chamber's AI responded instantly, projecting a perfect holographic replica of Vexcore based on 2 years of accumulated combat data. Winter's loose academy uniform dropped to the floor, revealing a sleek combat suit underneath. Its dark material, embedded with microscopic sensors and strength amplifiers, hugged her form like a second skin. This wasn't standard human military gear, it was something else entirely. The holographic Vexcore charged, its movements perfectly mimicking the real warrior's combat patterns. Winter moved like liquid lightning, her body flowing through spaces that seemed too small to contain her. Each dodge was precisely calculated, each counter-movement designed to exploit the microscopic weaknesses she had observed in Novan biology. "You're still telegraphing your moves," a familiar voice called out. Winter turned to see Commander Lin materializing in the chamber, her holographic form transmitted from Earth Command. "Just practicing," Winter replied, not breaking her rhythm as she continued to spar with the hologram. "The entire command staff is watching this operation closely," Lin said, her holographic form walking around the training space. "You understand what's really at stake here." Winter launched into a complex series of moves that would have been impossible without her enhanced nervous system. The Novans are planning something. Their sudden interest in diplomatic relations, sending their best warrior to the academy, it doesn't add up. "Exactly," Lin nodded. "We believe they are assessing our capabilities. Their empire has been expanding again, and Earth sits on the border of their territory." The holographic Vexcore unleashed a devastating combination attack. Winter's response was barely visible to the naked eye, a series of micro-movements that turned the hologram's strength against itself. "They think humans are weak," Winter said, her breathing steady despite the intense exercise. "Primitive. They see our diplomatic efforts as signs of fear. And that's why you're there," Lin smiled. "To show them exactly how wrong they are. But remember, this isn't just about winning a fight. We need to understand their true intentions." Winter deactivated the hologram, standing in the center of the chamber. Sweat glistened on her skin, but her hands were steady. 2 years of watching, Commander. 2 years of recording every conversation, every boast, every drunk cadet bragging about their empire's plans. I know what they are planning. And the tournament isn't just a show of force. It's a prelude to invasion. The Novans believe that if their champion dominates the competition, it will demonstrate their superiority and justify their expansion. No species would dare resist. Lynn's hologram flickered with concern. Which is why you need to win. Not just win, you need to show the galaxy that humanity isn't what they think we are. Winter walked to her locker, retrieving a small device that pulsed with soft blue light. Oh, I'll show them. But first. She inserted the device into her neural port, and streams of combat data flooded her enhanced consciousness. I need to prepare a little surprise for our apex warrior. In the main training hall, Vexcor was putting on his usual display of power, his bioarmor gleaming as he demolished training drones. Students gathered to watch, placing bets on how quickly he would destroy his human opponent. What none of them noticed was Winter, sitting quietly in the observation gallery above, her enhanced eyes recording every movement, every pattern, every flaw in his seemingly perfect technique. In 2 days, the quiet human girl would show the galaxy why appearances could be deceiving. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, Nova Empire ships moved into position, their commanders waiting for the signal that would never come. The Academy's Grand Combat Arena hummed with anticipation on assessment day. Quantum-stabilized force fields separated the spectator areas, accommodating beings from gas giants alongside creatures that exhaled corrosive atmospheres. Every seat was filled, news of the unusual pairing had spread beyond the Academy's walls. Winter sat in the preparation chamber, her mind clear and focused as she performed her final equipment check. Her neural implants were running silent protocols, masking their true capabilities from the Academy's bioscanners. To the monitoring systems, she appeared to be nothing more than a standard human with basic military upgrades. Quite the audience, Professor Tsarkax's voice rumbled as he entered the chamber. Half the diplomatic corps from 17 systems have come to watch. Curious, for what should be a routine assessment. Winter looked up, her face composed. Is that unusual, Professor? The massive Draconid's scales shifted through patterns of thought. You know, in all my years teaching here, you're the first student I couldn't fully read. Most humans broadcast their emotions like solar flares, but you. He paused, ancient eyes studying her. What are you really, Winter Frost? Just a student, Professor, she replied with a slight smile. Here to learn. Indeed. His scales flickered with what might have been amusement. Then let me offer one final lesson. Vexcor isn't just fighting for himself today. The Nova Empire has invested considerable resources in his training. They expect results. Winter stood, adjusting her plain combat suit. So do I, Professor. So do I. In the adjacent preparation chamber, Vexcor was holding court. His bioarmor gleamed with fresh improvements, each plate humming with barely contained power. A cluster of admirers surrounded him, including several Nova Empire officials who had, coincidentally, chosen this day to visit the Academy. The betting pools are heavily in your favor, one official noted, his translator barely keeping up with his excited clicks. The humans have no idea what's coming. Vexcor's armor rippled with predatory satisfaction. After today, they'll understand their place in the galaxy. All of them will. The arena's announced system activated, its AI carefully modulating frequencies for all species present. Combat Assessment Match 1, Vex KOR of the Nova Empire vs Winter Frost of Earth. Participants, please enter the arena. The entrance ports opened simultaneously. Vexcor emerged to thunderous applause, his bioarmor now fully activated and pulsing with aggressive patterns. He stood 7 feet tall, a perfect fusion of biological and technological superiority, the pride of an empire that spanned 17 star systems. Winter walked out quietly from the opposite port. In her standard-issue combat suit, she looked almost absurdly small compared to her opponent. The contrast drew laughs from several sections of the audience. They met in the center of the arena. Up close, the size difference was even more dramatic. Last chance, human, Vexcor's translator broadcasted, his bioarmor flaring. Forfeit now, and I'll ensure your defeat is quick and relatively painless. Winter looked up at him, and for the first time in 2 years, she allowed her carefully maintained mask to slip. Her eyes, normally so carefully blank, now held something that made Vexcor's secondary breathing vents flutter uncertainly. You know what your empire's greatest weakness is? She asked, her voice carrying clearly through the arena's acoustic enhancement field. You actually believe your own propaganda. Vexcor's armor plates shifted in confusion, then anger. You dare. 2 years, Winter continued, her voice still conversational. 2 years I've watched you train. 2 years I've analyzed every flaw in your technique, every limitation of your bioarmor, every weakness you don't even know you have. She smiled, and it wasn't the smile of a prey species. Would you like to know how many I found? The arena had gone silent. Even the energy beings had stilled their usual ambient fluctuations. Combat assessment begins in 10 seconds, the AI announced. Vexcor's armor now pulsed with rage patterns. You think you're human tricks? 9 missing plates in your secondary armor layer, Winter interrupted. A 0.3 second lag in your neural response on your left side. And your armor's power distribution system. She shook her head. Well, we'll get to that. 3 seconds. I am the apex warrior of the Nova Empire. Vexcor roared, his translator struggling to convey the full range of his fury. 2 seconds. Winter's smile never wavered. No, she said quietly. You're today's lesson. 1 second. The quiet human girl who had spent 2 years being invisible shifted her stance slightly. Her neural implants came fully online, flooding her system with combat data. The simple combat suit began to change, nanomaterials responding to commands that had waited 2 years to be executed. Combat assessment begins. In the observation box, Professor Tsarkax's scales shifted to a color that hadn't been seen in centuries. Now, he whispered, we see what's really been hiding in my classroom. The apex warrior charged forward, exactly as Winter had predicted he would. After all, she had spent 2 years making sure he would never expect anything else from a human. That was about to change. The first exchange happened so fast that half the audience missed it. Vexcor's charge should have ended with a human-shaped stain on the arena floor. Instead, Winter moved like liquid mercury, flowing through spaces that shouldn't have existed, her body transitioning through impossible angles that made several mathematical beings in the audience question their understanding of geometry. Impossible, breathed a Nova Empire official, his translator crackling with distortion. Vexcor's bioarmor blazed with attack patterns as he launched a devastating combination, a sequence that had shattered 3 combat drones in training. His 4 upper limbs became a blur of motion, each strike capable of punching through battleship armor. Winter didn't block a single hit. She didn't need to. 0.7 second gap between your third and fourth strike, she commented casually, sliding between his attacks like water through a sieve. You really should have had that looked at. The apex warrior's frustrated roar shook the arena's containment fields. His bioarmor's power output doubled, then tripled, flooding his systems with enough energy to level a small building. The air itself began to ionize around him. Stop. Moving. Each word was punctuated by a strike that could have split a planet's crust. Winter continued her dance of avoidance, but now something was changing. Her simple combat suit rippled, nanomaterials awakening from their 2-year dormancy. Threads of iridescent energy began to trace patterns across its surface, matching and countering the frequencies of Vexcor's bioarmor. Let me show you something interesting, she said, her voice still calm despite moving at speeds that strained the arena's tracking systems. Did you know your armor has a resonance frequency? Her next movement wasn't a dodge. As Vexcor's fist swept through where she should have been, Winter's hand snapped out, striking a seemingly random point on his bioarmor. The impact looked negligible. The effect was anything but. A discordant hum filled the arena as ripples of interference patterns cascaded across Vexcor's armor. The mighty warrior stumbled, his perfect balance disrupted for the first time in living memory. What did you do? His translator glitched, shifting through multiple frequencies. 2 years of studying your armor's harmonic patterns, Winter replied, continuing her movements in what was now clearly a predetermined sequence. Every time you trained, every time you showed off, I was recording. Analyzing. Learning. She struck again, each hit precisely targeted. The nanomaterials in her suit pulsed with accumulated energy, releasing it in perfectly tuned frequencies that sent Vexcor's bioarmor into cascading feedback loops. In the VIP observation box, a Nova Empire general grabbed Professor Tsarkaxer's arm. "This is impossible. No human could." "No," the professor interrupted, his scales shifting through colors of revelation. "Not impossible. We just never bothered to look closely enough." Down in the arena, the battle's dynamic had shifted completely. Vexcor, the undefeated champion, the apex warrior, was being systematically dismantled. Every attempt to attack resulted in his own power being turned against him. His bioarmor, the pride of Nova Empire technology, was becoming a prison of resonating energy. The worst part, Winter continued, her movements now a blur of calculated precision, is that you never questioned why I sat in the back of the class. Never wondered why the quiet human girl spent 2 years doing nothing but watching. Your empire's superiority complex made you blind. Vexcor tried to engage his armor's emergency protocols, attempting to purge the cascading disruptions. "We are the apex species. We cannot be defeated by a human." Winter's hand struck like a viper, hitting 3 points simultaneously. Vexcor's left legs buckled. "By a quiet girl who never showed off." Another series of strikes, and his secondary arms went offline. "By someone you thought was beneath your notice." The arena had fallen completely silent. Representatives from 17 systems watched in stunned disbelief as their understanding of the galaxy's power structure underwent a radical revision. Winter's final movement was almost gentle. She placed her palm flat against Vexcor's central armor core, where she had observed a microscopic power fluctuation 2 years ago during his first training session. "Here's your final lesson," she said softly. "Never underestimate the quiet ones." A pulse of perfectly tuned energy transferred from her suit into his armor. The resonance cascade was immediate and complete. Vexcor, pride of the Nova Empire, champion of 17 systems, crashed to the arena floor. His mighty bioarmor, the product of centuries of warfare evolution, lay inert. The arena's AI took 3 full seconds to process what its sensors were telling it. Finally, it announced, "Combat assessment complete. Victor, Winterfrost of Earth." As medics rushed to attend to the fallen warrior, Winter turned to face the observation box where the Nova Empire officials sat in shocked silence. Her voice, carried clearly by the arena's acoustics, held steel beneath its quiet tone. "Now," she said, "shall we discuss your empire's recent military movements near Earth's borders?" In the absolute silence that followed, Professor Tsarkaxer's scales shifted to a color that meant both amusement and profound respect. The quiet human girl who had sat in the back of his class for 2 years hadn't just won a fight. She had changed the galaxy. The Academy's Grand Conference Hall had never seen such a gathering. Representatives from 23 spacefaring civilizations sat around a quantum-stabilized table, their varied physiologies accommodated by adaptive environmental fields. At the center of it all sat Winter Frost, still in her combat suit, now recognized as something far more sophisticated than anyone had initially assumed. "The Nova Empire's fleet movements," she said quietly, activating a holographic display above the table. 17 battle groups, positioned to strike at key human colonies. Her fingers traced patterns through the light, highlighting strategic positions. All timed to coincide with today's demonstration of supposed Nova superiority. The Nova Empire's prime delegate, a heavily augmented being whose translator struggled to maintain diplomatic frequencies, leaned forward. "These are serious accusations." "They are facts," Winter interrupted, her voice still calm but carrying an authority that silenced the room. "Facts I've spent 2 years collecting while everyone dismissed the quiet human girl as harmless." New data streams appeared in the hologram. Every conversation your cadets had while thinking no one important was listening. Every boast about upcoming glory. Every encrypted transmission they thought was secure. In the corner, Professor Tsarkax watched with scales shifting between amazement and amusement. His most unremarkable student had turned out to be his greatest lesson in centuries of teaching. The Nova Empire, Winter continued, believed that a display of dominance in the Academy's tournament would justify their expansion. After all, who would dare resist the species that produced the galaxy's greatest warriors? Her lips curved in a slight smile. That plan required VexCorps to win. The hologram shifted to replay moments from the combat assessment. The Nova officials flinched as they watched their champion's systematic dismantling. But this was never about just one fight, Winter said, standing slowly. Her combat suit rippled with barely perceptible energy patterns. This was about showing the galaxy something it needed to learn. A quantum collective representative pulsed with curiosity patterns. And what lesson would that be? That true strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it watches. Learns. Adapts. Winter's eyes swept the room. Humanity didn't survive first contact and earn our place among the stars by being the strongest or the most aggressive. We did it by being the most observant, the most adaptable, and yes, sometimes the most quiet. The Magmarian delegate bubbled with agitation. Your victory over VexCorps was 2 years in the making, Winter finished. Every moment I spent being dismissed as unremarkable was a moment I spent learning your weaknesses, understanding your technologies, and preparing for today. She touched another control, and the hologram displayed the Nova Empire's full battle plans. Your invasion fleet is already standing down, she noted. Earth Command sends their regards, by the way. They've been watching this whole time. The Nova Prime delegate's augments word with barely contained fury. You infiltrated our. No, Winter corrected. I sat quietly and let you show me everything willingly, because you never considered me a threat. The quiet human girl in the back of the class couldn't possibly be gathering intelligence that would reshape the galaxy's power structure. Professor Tsarkax stepped forward, his massive form drawing all eyes. Perhaps, he rumbled, it is time for a new course at the Academy. The danger of underestimation, we could call it. Winter's smile widened slightly. I'd be happy to teach it, Professor. The conference room erupted in overlapping translations as delegates processed the implications. Winter stood calmly in the chaos, her quiet presence now commanding attention rather than dismissal. In the days that followed, the galaxy's political landscape shifted dramatically. The Nova Empire signed unprecedented peace treaties. New trade agreements were established. And throughout the 17 systems, warriors began to look differently at the quiet ones in their midst. Back in her classroom, Winter took her usual seat in the back row. But now, students of all species filled the seats around her, each hoping to learn from the human who had changed everything while barely raising her voice. Professor Tsarkax began his lecture with words that would be repeated in combat schools across the galaxy. True power, he said, his scales gleaming, often lies not in the ability to dominate a room, but in the wisdom to observe it. In the back of the class, Winter smiled slightly and continued taking notes. After all, there were always new lessons to learn, new patterns to observe, new quiet moments that could change everything. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, humanity's reputation underwent a subtle but significant change. They were no longer seen as the galaxy's newcomers, barely worth noting. Now, they were known as the species you should watch carefully, especially the quiet ones. Because sometimes, the most dangerous force in the galaxy isn't the one that roars its strength to the stars. Sometimes, it's the quiet observer in the back of the room, just waiting for the right moment to change everything.